Welcome to the Rich, Young, and Powerful podcast. This is the place where we help average givers become everyday philanthropists. I'm your host, Andrew McNair, a financial commentator, author, nine-figure wealth manager, and philanthropist too. I'm going to show you how to give more, how to find more fulfillment, and help you impact the causes that you care about the most. Because when a giver gives more, they receive and become more. Today, I am very excited to bring on our special guest. I heard him on another podcast, and I thought we have to have him on the Rich, Young, Powerful podcast. So Dr. Nido Qubein is the president of High Point University, and he has quite a story to share. And the success story of High Point University is just amazing to hear its explosive growth. And so if it's possible, Dr. Qubein, could you share with us really the essence of this explosive growth and how you and your team have experienced just something really special at High Point University?
God at work, my friend. God at work. This is a God family country school. We're on God's side. God is not a bus boy. You got to do the work. You pray for wisdom, grace, and strength. And I came here in 2005. Now, Andrew, I was quite blessed and successful in business. I've been in business 35 years. I started 6 different companies, and I was the incoming chairman of the board of trustees at High Point University. I tell you this because it answers your question in a more complete format. And they begged me to come and be president. The school was not doing well. It had $120 million in deferred maintenance and very few students, 1,400 in total, and 370 freshmen, losing 20% of the freshman class every year. So they asked me to come and see if we can fix it. We had revenues of 28 million, endowment of 40 million. We were ranked quite low in U.S. News and World Report. And so I've been here, Andrew, I came here reluctantly just to do it for 2 years and help it out because I went to school here, my junior and senior year in undergrad. And here I am, my
Still there.
19th year. What is that all about? I fell in love. Let me tell you something, Andrew. When you feel passionate about your work, when you feel God's calling in your life, when you feel that you are planting seeds of greatness in the minds, hearts, and souls of your students, when you feel that you're preparing your students for the world as it is going to be, with all of its blemishes and difficulties and challenges, but also its promises and its opportunities and its potential possibilities. Something happens to you, man. Something happens to you, and all of a sudden, everything becomes easier. Don't ask me to explain that. I don't understand that. Talk to God about it. But what I do know is that when your heart is in the right place, when you do the right things, the doors of opportunities open up like you won't believe. Just like in a basketball game. In a basketball game, we look at the guy who scores the ball and we go, bravo, he's got 18 points this game, and he's averaging 18 points a game. But that's not the most important guy. The most important person is the assist, right? The guy who gave him the ball so he can put the ball in the basket. Life is filled with assists. You just have to pray for them, look for them, and appreciate them when we have them. So High Point University today, Andrew, in summary, we have 6,000 students. We're number 1 among best colleges in the South, U.S. News and World Report. We're on the list of the best 378 colleges in Princeton Review. Our revenues went from 28 million to 400 plus million. And our endowment went from 40 to 150. You get the idea. We went from 3 academic schools to 13. Now I'll answer your question. You asked, how did we do this? 4 things, Andrew. 4 things. I hope those listening to us and watching us, I hope they take notes, because I'll give you a lot of stuff that I've experienced in my own life. It's tried and proven. This isn't some hyperbole. This isn't some positive thinking. This is real stuff. I built businesses on this. And here are the 4 points what we did at High Point University. Number 1, we created appreciated value. Now, Andrew, there is a measurable difference between value and appreciated value. Appreciated value is when you create value that meets the 4 most important areas of someone's life: their needs, their goals, their aspirations, and their fears. When you do that, people sit up and pay attention. When you do that, people will follow you anywhere. When you do that, people will do business with you. So we create appreciated value. Number two, we interpreted the value. We interpreted the value. In other words, don't ever assume that the person listening to us today really understands a point. If I were to use a point like appreciate value, they may not know what that means. You have to interpret that. And the way you interpret it is from a perspective they can understand. After all, the law of identification says when something becomes personal, it then becomes important. Until something is personal, it's not important. You don't think about your dentist this morning, but if your tooth are hurting you, all of a sudden you're thinking about your dentist. Why? It's personal. It's important. You don't think about cancer. If you're a concerned citizen, you think about it. But God forbid somebody in your family, somebody you love, gets cancer. All of a sudden you read about it. I have a friend right now who has ALS. I'm reading about what is ALS, what does it do, how long might he live, etc., etc. So number two, interpret the value. Number three, get rid of the irritants. What are you doing in your business, in your life, in your personal behavior that's irritating other people? Get rid of it. Because if you are creating irritants, you are making big mistakes. And finally, Andrew, add wow to the experience. So you have to see High Point University. Anybody who's got a 15, 16, 17-year-old son or daughter, they need to come and visit High Point University. You don't have to attend here. We get 15,500 applications for the freshman class. We're not looking for students, but you owe it to yourself to see what excellence really looks like. Our call to action, Andrew, is choose to be extraordinary. It's a choice. When God breathed in our nostrils and gave us life, and He created us in His own image, He intended for us to be extraordinary. Andrew, God didn't sit in heaven and say, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to create some extraordinary people. But Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, just to balance things out, I'm going to create some dinglings. No, that's not what happened. And so, the question is, what day of the week were you born? All right. It doesn't matter. So, my friend, there's no such thing as unrealistic dreams, only unrealistic timelines. The circumstances in which you find yourself today do not determine where you end up. They only define where you start. You got me started, Andrew. You got me started.
I
I'm
mean,
going
it's powerful. I've been busy taking down notes because I know there's a pastor, there's a business person that is just taking down notes as fast as I am. So this is incredible. But, you've seen some High Point University turning points, but you talk about turning points in your own life. And I don't know if everyone has heard your own story. Can you share with us a bit about your humble beginnings?
Yes. Well, my daddy died when I was 6 years of age. Turning point. Amazon did my life story. You can watch it on Amazon or Biography Channel. And they said, if you could have changed one thing in your life, what would be the one thing you'd want to most change in your life? I know the answer. The answer is I must rather have had a dad, read me a book, sang me a song, took me to Bible school, throw me a frisbee, talked to me man to man, but that wasn't my thing. You know what happens in life? Out of adversity can emerge abundance. If you have two things, faith and courage, put them together, what happens? Faithful courage. Faith alone is not enough because God is not a busboy. God is not going to do that. You can't say, dear God, please make my church grow. It doesn't work that way. You pray for wisdom, for strength, etc. And then courage. You have to have courage. Hello, you have to have courage. If you take risk out of life, you take opportunity out of life. You got to have courage. You got to get up in the morning and say, I was created for a purpose. God gave me the greatest gift on the face of this earth, and He charged me nothing for it. You know what it is? Oxygen. I have oxygen, oxygen with which I can survive, but oxygen also with which I can think, with which I can do things. So here's the deal. There was my mom. My mom had fourth grade education. Did you hear me? Fourth grade education. She couldn't show you the United States of America on a map. She was left with 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls. She had to feed us and clothe us. And she remarkably learned to become a seamstress, make clothes for people. And she began to do that. And she worked day and night to feed us and clothe us and instill in us values for life, man. Values for life and principles for living. Like who you spend time with is who you become. Mm. Like what you choose is what you get. Like how you change is how you succeed. like all things are possible for those who have faith. And I added courage to that. And we should buy a chicken on a Monday. And on Monday, we'd sit around and just look at the chicken, admire the chicken, enjoy the aroma of the chicken. We were not allowed to touch the chicken. By Saturday, she was making soup with the bones from the chicken. But Andrew, my mom never, ever said, we can't afford that. We can't afford what the Joneses. Son, you can't make it. She said, all things are possible with God. All things are possible. Just keep your faith in your heart and move forward, and God will show you the way. And so she borrowed money and she sent me to America on a one-way ticket. And I landed in the eastern side of North Carolina. And I had $50. I could speak a little bit of English. I had to learn the English language to speak it in a fluent, and flowing manner on 3x5 cards. 3x5 cards, 10 English words a day, spelling and meaning I memorized, 3x5 cards. Andrew, if I only had the wisdom of buying 5x7 cards, man, I'd be using bigger words today. And so I worked hard. I was lonely. I was homesick, 7,000 miles away. I grew up in the Holy Land, 7,000 miles away from my home, my friends. I left everything. But God had a plan for me. And those people loved me. And it was a 2-year school. I finished, it was like not a community college, but a 2-year college. And I finished there and I came to High Point. And I came to High Point because Camp Cheerio in High Point, North Carolina, hired me to be a counselor and then a director of the camp as a Christian camp, YMCA camp. And the reason they hired me in the first place, because I had no place to go come summertime. I was then what they call us foreign student. I was a foreign student in a foreign land, man. But at every turn, God lit the pathway for me. And I can tell you 100 stories, Andrew. But the answer to your question is yes, I came up the hard way. Yes, it was tough. But I always had faithful courage. And I always believed in intentional congruence. All things that you do must work together for the common good, and the whole must be better than the sum of the pieces. And always be kind to everyone, always love everyone, always forgive everyone. I'm still working on that. That's not
You
one that you read a book about and do it. And always be generous. Generosity is not just about money. Generosity is about kindness and civility. America is losing its way, Andrew. We need to all go back to God's way, man. It's like, holy cow, what's becoming of us? What has become of us? And so that's why Hype University is a God Family Country School.
Your mother, with a fourth grade education, had wisdom. And I think sadly, we've fallen into a trap to think that if we just have higher education, we'll have wisdom. And I think that's what I love about High Point University the most is yes, it's higher education, but we're also seeking after adding wisdom and adding well-rounded adults.
Andrew, my mother did not have wisdom. She had uncommon sense. Uncommon sense. In other words, her wisdom was based on not the run of the mill stuff. She taught me principles that a postgraduate degree PhD may or may not really know. Like if you want to be great, you must first walk hand in hand and side by side with great people. You want to be happy, walk hand in hand, side by side with great people. You want to be faithful, walk hand in hand, side by side with faithful people. So my mother was, my hero, my model, my mentor, and but Andrew, I did pretty well. I
Yeah, I
did
think so.
pretty well. I'm a member of the Racial Algebra Association of Distinguished Americans, with the likes of, Colin Powell and the CEOs of the largest corporation in the country. And I often ask myself, how did I get here? What has become of us? We built the net assets of Hype University from 56 million to $1 billion. How does that happen, Andrew? I get up in the morning, man. I look outside my window and say, good morning, Lord. What might today bring forth? I'm ready. I'm ready. And I go for it.
It's incredible. I also want to hear about your stewardship journey and hear about the first times, you have the earliest memories of giving in your life, because I know your story about Mennonites actually sending gifts to your village.
Yeah, we were poor. So at Christmas, I got this little package that Mennonite church would put together. I don't know if they still do it. And they send it over there so kids in churches can get it. But Andrew, you know what was in that package? A towel, a pencil, a pad, a toothbrush. You get it? It wasn't toys and candy. It was basics. You understand?
Right.
And I was excited about what I got there. And I'll tell you about stewardship. So I was in a school called Mount Olive Junior College, Mount Olive, North Carolina. I finished my second year. I worked 10 hours a day to work my way through college. And I finished my second year. I was going to come to High Point. The president of the school, a man called Burkett Raper, he'd been president for 40 years. He was a man of God, if ever I met one. And he dedicated his life. He grew up in an orphanage. He dedicated his life to humanity and the service of others. And he came up to me and he said, Nido, I want to tell you something. I know that you think that the money you paid the school, paid your tuition, room and board, but in fact, there was a chasm between the money you owed the school and the money you paid the school. I just want to tell you, a doctor in a neighboring city called Goldsboro picked up the tab for the difference. Wow. What would you have done? I said to him, I said, I'd like to know this person is. So I can thank them. I can express to them my gratitude for their incredible stewardship and philanthropy. But he said that person wants to remain anonymous. I later found out this one person, whoever it is, I still don't know, had done that a lot for kids. And so I went back to my room and knelt by the side of my bed, cried my eyes out. And on that day, I made a commitment to God Almighty. Now, dear friend, there's a measurable difference between making a decision and making a commitment. You make a decision with your brain. You make a commitment with your heart. That's why commitments are longer lasting. That's why commitments are harder to break. It's a question we ask people, are you interested or are you committed? Big difference. Are you interested or are you, I ask my team here, are you interested in what we're doing? Are you committed to what we're doing? Big difference. So on that day, I made a commitment to God. Dear God, I don't know why you're so good to me. I ask that question every day. Dear God, why are you so good to me? Why you give me a brain that works, a healthy body and energy that allow me to do my work? Why is that? But God has a plan for your life. And so I made a commitment to God that when I begin to work and have a little bit of money, I'll start a fund to help other kids go to college. Now, Andrew, 1973, I came out of graduate school. I saved $500. I worked all day, full-time job. I went to school at night. And, on Saturday, I worked all day. On Sunday, I was a youth director in a local church. And I took the $500, the first $500, and I started a scholarship fund. Today, Andrew, we've given more than $8 million.
Incredible.
More than 800 kids went to college. Turning point. Someone gave me an assist. Someone believed in me. Someone took money out of their pocket. They could have gone on a cruise and they invested in my life. And I was determined on that day that I will commit my life in a special way. Andrew, 1/3 of my life, I invest in earning. We have to earn a living. 1/3 of my life, I invest in learning. I learn every day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours every single morning. Read the Bible, read motivational books like your wonderful books, read books, learn, become better. But Andrew, 1/3 of my life, I commit to serving.
Mhm.
Tithing to me is a minimum requirement. More often than not, I'm a double tither. I'm here to shout it from the mountaintop. I've never given $1 that hasn't come back to me $10. Now the key is not to give so you can get back. The key is just to give. I don't believe in giving back, Andrew. I think giving back means I have debt and I have to give it back. I believe in giving. Jesus gave his life on the cross and asked for nothing in return. In fact, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. You understand what I'm saying? So life is about giving. Love to your children. Love. Philanthropy is a pretty word, but stewardship is a much stronger word. To be a disciple, a steward. That's what a minister does in a church. One of my favorite ministers is the Reverend Chris Hodges, a church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama. God gave him the knowledge and the wisdom and the faith to build a church with 75,000 members. They just had 100,000 people attend the Easter services. They have 27, 28 different campuses, and they have planted, literally helped plant thousands of churches. So, a person like that just inspires my heart. William Barclay, the Scottish theologian, said, always give without remembering, always receive without forgetting. I just told you a story, Andrew, from 1968. I will never forget. I forget as long as I live. So that's what giving is, and that's what my life stands for today. And that's why I left significant businesses with significant revenue to come here and be a servant leader at Hype University.
Well, it's a beautiful story because that humble philanthropist had a ripple effect that they probably could not have fathomed, that someone like yourself is going to be the recipient of that, then is going to create a scholarship. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about stewardship and philanthropy is the ripple effects that it causes when we step out in faith and give. So it's incredible.
And you give without knowing what's going to happen, right?
Right.
You could have invested this money in me, and I could have been a failure, right? I could have become a drug addict. But he was inspired to take a step in faith, and
You,
and then and then it's the parable. He invested, his talents, and they turned into something. In this context, not into more money necessarily, but into more action, positive action, for the kingdom of God on this earth in which all of us live. We all came from the soul of the earth. We're all going back to the soul of the earth. This is just a little journey on earth. And I'll tell you what, when your day comes to an end and you move on, hopefully to a good place, I'm going to tell you what, nobody gives a hoot how much money you got. I know multi-billionaires, many of them. Nobody gives a hoot about that. And nobody gives a hoot about awards. And when I was younger, in my 30s, if you came to my office, you'd have seen plaques of all the awards I got. Forgive me for my lack of humility. I've gotten hundreds of awards. And now every month somebody wants to give me an award. I only keep some crystal pieces that are pretty, and that's about it. You won't see in my office any awards, and maybe a couple. The highest award in speaking and the Horatio Alger thing, but they're not like plaques saying I'm a great person. And I keep them because they're beautiful pieces of sculpture. I think that's the journey we must travel. The two most important words in the English language: to influence and to impact.
mm,
How are you influencing people? And when it's all said and done, what's your impact? And when it's all said and done means at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of a lifetime on this earth.
that's what's all about is being salt and light.
That's why
And
I like your books, because you are not teaching people, you're modeling for people behaviors that can enrich their lives, nourish their minds, yes, but nurture their soul. I'll tell you what, man, you know this, Andrew. When your soul is nurtured and is rich, um, ain't nothing, man, ain't nothing measures against that. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. I walk on the beach and I talk to God out loud, by the way. I talk to God out loud. And all my talking to God is about thankfulness and gratitude. You know what, Andrew? Whining is the opposite of thanksgiving. Why do we whine so much? You can't, I don't watch TV. You know why? It's filled with whiners. They're all whining about this, whining about that. And I go, really? I live in America, man. What are you talking about? Can we talk about the blessings in our life? And by the way, if you're whining, that means you're not really fully invested as a steward to make good things happen. 'Cause that's what will feed your heart. That's what will make you feel really good at the end of the day.
the best state to live in is definitely gratitude. There's no doubt. And this is always dangerous, Dr. Cobain, but I'm going to quote you. And anytime someone quotes you, if you're an author or speaker, it's always dangerous because you're like, oh, I did say that. Once said, if you take risk out of life, you take opportunity out of
Yes,
life. What do you mean by
absolutely.
that?
Oh my goodness. You know, Look, I'm not saying take irresponsible risks. That would be stupid. I'm talking about calculated risks. Let me put it in Christian terms. It's called steps of faith, man. Called steps of faith. You gotta step up. Jesus walked on water out of the boat. What are you doing? Are you stuck inside your boat all the time? Are you willing to step out on faith? And so, but Jesus also does not reward stupidness. I'm not suggesting that you go out there and do stupid things, but I'm suggesting almost every great adventure in life that I know about, someone took a risk. When I came to Hype University, we didn't have anything. We had to borrow a little money, and we had to build the first building so I can sell the school and fix the deferred maintenance. Let me tell you something, Andrew. It was a risk, my friend. It was a big risk. It was a calculated risk. Somehow, if you listen to the voice within, it'll guide you. Now, you have to have knowledge, skill, experience. Of course, we all agree on that. But here's let me give you what I do about risk. So I don't want you to think that I'm just a positive thinker. I listen. I, I love positiveness, but
It's
what I
better
really
than
care
negativity.
well, compare negativity, but I'm not a positive thinker. No, no, no. That to me is new agey stuff. I don't know that I believe all that unless it's founded on rock. And so for me, it's about growth mindset. It's about saying, God gave me this capacity, and what would I do with it? And how would I feed it, learn it? What circles will I be in? What books will I read? What seminars will I attend? What podcasts I'd listen to, and so on. So here's my formula for risk management. Life is not about risk avoidance. Life is about risk management. So when I say you take risk out of life, take opportunity out of life, I mean that. But I also mean you have to frame that in the proper perspective. So the proper perspective is something like this. This is a formula I developed. It's in one of my books. So and I say, anytime I want to take any kind of a risk, like at Hype University, we started 10 academic schools. You know how difficult that is? We did it in the middle of the Great Recession and in COVID. Are you kidding me? You started dental medicine school, a law school, a pharmacy school, engineering school, a nursing school. This is not for the faint at heart. This is for people who are willing to travel the road less traveled. And so I ask these questions. I really want to make sure people listening to us, watching us, are paying close attention. Here are the questions I ask. What is the best thing that can happen as a result of this action? Let's say I want to buy a real estate building. What is the best thing that can happen as a result of that activity? Well, best thing is it can triple in prices in the right city, location. Bam, it's great. You pay your taxes, you still got a lot of money. Okay, great. What is the most likely thing to happen as a result of that activity? And then the most important question of all, what's the worst thing that can happen? Now, look, if the most likely thing to happen will get you closer to your goals, and if you're willing to deal with the worst thing that can happen, I go for it every time. No question. Let's
That's a
choose
great
the first
formula.
thing. However, if the most likely thing to happen doesn't move me forward, why am I even looking at this? And if I'm not willing to deal with the worst thing that can happen, you can't bet the farm every time. So I bought companies that I took major risks. I'll tell you just one short story. In year 2000, I bought a company called Great Harvest Bread Company. Today it has 240 stores around the country, the best bread, best muffins you'll ever have in your life. We bought it today, and within a month, Dr. Atkins came on the scene and said, don't eat carbs. Now, do you think we took a risk? Are you kidding me? I own 72% of the business. That was a huge risk. But I believe with all my heart that we can overcome that risk with interpretation of value, with adding wow to the experience. And we did. And we did. And now that year we were flat, and so on. But within 2 years, the company took off. So when I say take risk out of life and take opportunity out of life, I don't mean be callous or careless or irresponsible. I think in life we have to be both responsible and responsive. We have to be responsive to the call of God. We have to be responsible to the voice within if it's founded correctly. We have to be responsible responsive to the opportunities that come our way, right? So the opportunity comes your way. What do you do with it? You throw it away? It's a gift from the heavens. So I believe being responsible, yes. Being responsive, yes. And in time, one learns the nuances to make the right decisions. In the interim, one needs mentors, just like you are to your clients, and just like the people listening to us are listening to this podcast, because we all need mentors. I read like you wouldn't believe. I read 2 books a week. I listen. I will learn more from this little discussion with you than you will learn from me, because it's forcing me to interpret what I know and to be a clear thinker and to communicate it in a way that it connects with you, right? So I learn too. And that's what I mean. Sometimes we learn by doing, but we also learn by listening and observing and occasionally by risking. I'm not going to risk 100% of anything today, because I've achieved some good stuff in life, and I'm not willing to go tomorrow morning and do something stupid.
Right.
Forgive me, I don't believe in crypto stuff. Out of the window. That's not my cup of tea. I don't believe in all this latest thing stuff. I don't believe in it. Just like I don't believe in all these big rallies that are going to tell you how you're going to multiply your money 10 times and how you're going to, be the best guy in the world. That's lovely, but the guys who are going to get rich are the ones putting that stuff on. I want someone honest, forthright, Andrew. For me, authenticity above charisma any of the day, any day of the week.
And
People,
that's the power of mentorship. And there's one other reason why I really love High Point University is that you teach your students these life skills. And there's a freshman's presidential seminar on life skills. And I know that you teach stewardship. Can you share with us some of the things that you share in that class that have to do with stewardship?
well, stewardship is about Miss Verta Longhorn, who was my house mother in Mount Olive. She was my mother in absentia, if you will. And she's the one who fixed my button when I needed it done. That's stewardship. She's the one who passed me a piece of chocolate when someone gave her a buck. She knew I was a foreign student, the only foreign student in that school. On the weekends, everybody went home. I was by my lonely self in that house. 17 kids lived in the house. Stewardship also is when I saved $375, and I was going to come to High Point, and I went to buy a car. I didn't have a car, and I found that the cheapest car I could find was $750. So I came back and told Miss Longhorn, I went to buy this car, 375. I'd saved the hard way. It was 750. It's okay. I don't give up. My mom taught me years ago. It's perfectly okay to be disappointed. It's never okay to be discouraged.
Mm.
So I said, Miss Longhorn, I'm disappointed I could buy the car, but I'm not discouraged. And there'll be another day. I'll save some more money. I'll just be patient. I'll wait a little longer. Well, Andrew, at the end of the month, I looked at my bank statement. Lo and behold, I knew I had 375. Now there was $750. So my first thought was, this is cool. Bankers don't know how to add. I love this country. My second thought was, Lord have mercy. Could she? Did she? Would she? This woman who made $100 from Social Security and $100 being a house mother at Mount Olive Junior College. I'll never forget her words as long as I live. She said, I've concluded it's much better for me to invest my money in the life of a budding young man than to park it in a savings account somewhere. Turning point, stewardship. I show her a picture in my class. I put it right up there on the big screen. And I say, she taught me about stewardship. Now, stewardship sometimes, like in her case, employs sacrifice. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have plenty of money and you should tithe and double tithe. And by the way, you can't outgive God. So let's start right there. And people will tell you, give till it hurts. They don't know the joy in life. Give till it feels good. That's the best way to give. And so, but then I teach some systems for stewardship, right? I teach the power of a dollar. A dollar saved a day can add up to a lot. Then you can do some good things with it. I teach the principle of I need versus I want. We spend so much of our money on stuff we say, I need, I need, I need. You don't need it. Wait 72 hours, you'll find out you don't really need it. You want it, you don't need it. So I'm not saying deny yourself. I'm not saying that at all. But when a woman says, "I need a $25,000 Louis Vuitton bag," I go, "That's lovely, and if you can afford it, go for it, but never go for it at the expense of not being a steward. That would not please your Creator. That is called selfish, self-serving, self-oriented. Those people will never find joy because joy cannot be found in material things. By the way, I have beautiful homes in Florida and at the beaches of North Carolina. I live in a big house. I drive a nice car. I'm not saying deny yourself. Here's what I'm saying. Enjoy the gifts. Keep your eyes on the giver. And when you do that,
Amen.
life has a way of rewarding you. And so, stewardship is more than philanthropy, Andrew, because when you are wealthy, it's so easy to give money. For one thing, if you're in the right tax bracket, 50% of it gets off the top. So you give $100, you're really giving $50. That's lovely. But stewardship is more than financial philanthropy. By the way, do you know the word philanthropy comes from a Greek derivative? Philos and anthropy, it means friend of humanity, right? Money is just happens to be the legal tender we must employ to make things happen. That's all money is. So by the way, you could live in countries where money could get devalued overnight. So don't take yourself too seriously just because you have money. You see the stock market goes up, goes down. But stewardship is about the wholeness of the person, the wholeness of the person. That's caring, loving, sharing. And when you do that, it makes you feel good. By the way, you share your time, your energy, and your money. Right? A church cannot run without people putting money in the church. You got buildings, utilities, a university can't run without all these people who donate money to us. And here's what I discovered. I discovered someone can give us, last year, 3 families gave us $100 million. But occasionally someone sends us $50. God's eye, that $50 could be more sacrificial than the 100 million. So we appreciate every gift. Thank everyone for their gift because the person who give you $50 a day can give you $100 million in a few years. You don't know that. You don't know what they're going for and what they're doing. Here's what I think is not stewardship: is misleading people, is using financial resources for political or societal or global initiatives that are done for the wrong reasons. I won't go down that path, but you and I know people who do that. I think stewardship has to come from a pure heart. I don't have a completely pure heart. I'm a sinner, but I know that my heart gets um, in a better place when I act like a steward.
I love it. And I don't want people to miss out on the investment return on giving. Many times, sadly, people will hoard money and then they'll wait till they die to make sure that the coast is clear, that they don't need all the money they've been hoarding. And then they die with a lot of money, then they give it away. And it's so sad because they think they can get a better return on their money than God can. And that's why I believe giving while you're living, so you know where your giving's going,
And that's
is
why I'm doing
because
this podcast with you, because I agree with you 100%. I get 10 invitations a week to do podcasts. I'm very careful who I do it with. And I'll tell you what, you are 100% correct when you say that. I love that. And keep saying that to people. Number one, when you give while you're living, you get to enjoy the impact of it. Let's start right there. If you're going to give scholarships, see the kid who's getting the scholarship, see what they can do in their life. Number two, when you die and leave your money, your son-in-law might spend it all. What are you talking about? I have a pillow somebody gave me, the founder of Ashley Furniture, which is the world's largest. I happen to be consultant to that company. He gave me this pillow that said, um, spend your money while you're alive. Otherwise, your heirs will go first class or something like that.
yeah, your kids will be flying first class while you fly coach.
That's what it is. Yeah. But I mean, that's sort of a cute thing to say, but I agree with you 100%. You ought to do it while you're living. Let me give you another reason why you should do that. Number one is because it gives you joy. Number two, because you get to watch it. But number three, because you get to impact it. So you get to say, Here's what I like to see happen with my money. You might even get to measure it. I'd like to see the results of it, the impact of it. And I I'm so blessed in my life, Andrew, I can't tell you. I wish I could explain it to you. I can't. I just know that God has blessed me because I've blessed others over the years.
Mm. I know there's grandparents, I know there's parents that are listening, and you've really piqued their interest about High Point University. How can they learn more about High Point University? How can they take a tour with one of their children, their grandchildren? How can they give towards it, towards scholarships? If you will share how they can find more information on High Point.
Well, you're very kind to ask that question. Thank you so much. I think that number one, our phone number is 336-841-9000. So anybody can call and come in and we'll give them a tour, especially if they have a high school child with them, for example. We put you on a golf cart. We show you the campus. At Hype University, we do three things. We ensure that every student here receives an extraordinary education, which has life skills along with academic, in an inspiring environment. Our campus is so inspiring, and it's beautiful. It's filled with sculptures and water and all of that, with caring people. Those are the three prongs we really look at very, very thoughtfully. We have a chapel in the middle of our campus with a cross on top of the chapel, the cross in the middle of the chapel. So many college presidents today can't even use the word God. It's so sad to me. So many schools have taken the cross out of the chapel under the guise of interfaith center. I don't, you can have your interfaith center. I'm not against that. But you're not going to take the cross out of our chapel. And you're not going to take it out of the top of our chapel. And the chapel is in the middle of campus. It is a symbol. It is a symbol of who we are, what we stand for. We're a God Family Country School. When you come into our arena, you see the biggest American flag, and under it, there was God, family, country. And guess what that's made of? All of that is made of 9/11 steel. So a friend of mine actually was the one who helped demolish, the remnants that were left over out of the sad occasion of 9/11. He gave us the steel, and we remolded it into this flag and into this, and it shouts it to everybody. It's a God, family, country school. If that bothers you, this may not be the school for you. But Andrew, we're not a Bible school. We have here all people. We're very inclusive. We have believers, non-believers. We have Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus. I don't know. But what I care about are the fundamental values and principles that we believe in as an institution and that my administration believes in as an institution. And we hope that everybody models those behaviors in every way. And it's a difficult time in America. So that's the phone number. You can go online, High Point, HIGHPOINT. The city is called High Point. Put the two together, highpoint.edu. You see our website. But I'll give you something else. You can download an app. You get so much value out of this app. And it's called HPU Plus. I want to make sure I'm telling you the truth. HPU Plus, and it is filled, yes, HPU Plus. The plus as the mathematical plus, HPU Plus. It's an app you download. It's free. It's loaded with hundreds of interviews I've made with Condoleezza Rice, with the chairman of the board of Domino's Pizza, you name it, I've got it there. Plus all my master class where I teach. It's a 3-minute master class, and it's all free. We don't charge for any of that. So those are some ways that you can do that. If you're blessed enough to fly out of an FBO, private terminal on airports, you'll see our magazines sitting right there in the FBO. And if you get a business journal in your city, 30 cities have a business journal, publishes every week. You'll see our magazine in there. You'll see our ad in there, as you'll see it in many other places. But you know what, Andrew? We're blessed. We're really not desperate for students. So many schools are. Andrew, did you know that 400 colleges and university private schools have shut down in the last 15 years? Did you know that
Wow.
56 shut down in the last 2 years? It's remarkable what's happening. But Andrew, God gives you the gifts, but you must be a disciplined person to manage the gifts. And running a university today is just like running a big church. It commands you to know something about fiscal literacy, something about communication, something about fundraising. You can't just say, God, do that for me. God gives you the strength and the wisdom, but you've got to figure it out. That's why I love your teaching. I love your books. I love what you're doing. because you are helping people to learn all of that.
I love some closing questions. I love closing questions because they can really hone in our thoughts for the rest of the episode. If you could write one tweet, Dr. Cobain, what would that would be read by everyone? One tweet. What would you want the world to read?
Focus is more important than intelligence. That's it. I would know who you are by what you are focused on. I also would know if you're an unfocused person, your chances of achieving much in life have just been diluted and diminished because you can do a lot of activity. Your life is about results. And so you tend to get great results from those that you're focused on. For example, I focus on learning the Elis language in a fluent, and flowing manner. Lots of people come to America and 40 years later, they still don't speak the language well. I went on to become one of America's busiest speakers, busiest consultants, commanding high fees for my speeches, had 1,000 invitations a year to speak at corporations and places all over the world. And so literally, Andrew, I was one of those that promoters promoted. You bought a ticket, you came to Civic Center, and you heard me speak for 3 hours. I was with Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and all these guys. But I focused on it. I wrote 18 books in a language that was not my home tongue. I focused on it. But you also have to be focused. Look, success is defined for me as follows. It's called capital, right? You think of financial capital. When you start a business, you have to have financial capital, but life has more than financial capital. You have to have financial capital, spiritual capital, physical, take care of your body. It's the temple. Relational capital, how you build bridges of understanding with other people. Um, Reputational character, what people think about you. Because these are all important elements that make life worthwhile and balanced. So what are you focused on? It's a good question. What are you focused on? Take a pen and paper, write it down. I am focused on this. Here's the problem, Andrew. Most people are focused on the to-do list. I've got to do this.
They're just trying to get through the day.
Yes, and that's fine, but those are transactional. You must have a to-be list.
Mm.
I want to be more faithful, more forgiving. I also want to be more successful. I want to be a better steward. I want to have significance in my life, not just success. Success is focused on the three F's, right? Fans, fame, fortune. Significance is focused on three F's too: your faith, your family, right? The fellowship that you're in. So those are discerning definitions of that. That's why I would say focus more upon the intelligence, because most people say, I got degrees, I'm intelligent, I'm in Mensa, I have high IQ. And Jesus talked to the prostitutes and the lame and the poor. So the poor, he didn't just focus on the biggest capitalists in the city, you know. And so I think our focus is important. It's important to focus on
That'd be a powerful tweet.
yeah, right. So that's what I would say if I had just one tweet to say. That's not 14. I don't know how many characters.
It is not that big, but
Yeah,
it would
it's
still be
short.
good. They've extended it, so that would fit. How about this one?
Okay.
Do you have a strong belief that isn't shared by popular culture?
Do I have a strong belief that?
Is not shared by popular culture?
Oh yes, yes, I have many of those. Well, popular culture today preaches things that I don't believe in at all. So let's start with that. Everything, from sexuality, from what we teach in schools to, all these things are contrary to what I believe in my heart, and what my faith leads me to.
But it must be hard when you run an institution that you want to be relevant, I guess, but you also and you don't want to offend anyone, but you have to make a line in the stand.
It's actually not hard for me because I am who I am, and I'm comfortable with who I am, and I can state it the way I believe it. However, I don't prejudge people. I love people for who they are, and I forgive people. I've had to learn to forgive people. I'm not really where I need to be, but I constantly work at that. So that those are the things that are popular culture. For me, I believe you have to have a foundational faith. If you don't believe in God, and I just don't know who you think you are. I read something about Elon Musk where he stop believing in God. I read something about the guy who founded Facebook just yesterday. I saw it and in his own words, he was speaking and he said, I was an atheist, but I'm believing it. So I believe the faith is gotta be grounded. I also believe in fairness. I believe in shouting at people and, cheating people out of something. And there's a lot of that in our popular culture. It's I, me, my. It's self-oriented. I like enlightened um, self-awareness. I don't like just self-awareness. Enlightened self-awareness says you too were created by God, and you may not have found the way that I found, but in time, I pray you will. So the three things that guide me are awareness, judgment, and relevance.
I think
Um,
the higher education could use more of that. That's for sure.
because people are beating a path to our door because we preach a message here that people, and yet we're normal. We're not a liberty university where you're absolutely, we're accepting all these people, but we're preaching it. I think we're doing pretty good at what
I
we're doing.
think so too. Is there any misconceptions for people that might have about HBU that you'd like to clear up once and for all?
Yeah, I mean, they're always, look, I have critics, I mean, I have critics. I have learned to deal with criticism. It doesn't bother me unless it's merited, in which case I want to learn from it.
Mm,
But some
that's
people
wisdom.
think because our campus looks so beautiful, it's only for rich people. What a sad observation that is. I tell people, we set the standard of excellence up here. Maybe kids can't make it, but maybe they can make it to here. If I set the standard of excellence here, maybe they make it to here. Yes, we have a beautiful campus, but we don't just have rich people. We have some rich people. Yes. Thank you, God, for those, because they'll help me build buildings and start academic schools. So thank you for that. They also help me give me money so I can help those who can't afford it.
Mhm.
But we are a microcosm of society. It's a bell curve. I have some were very wealthy, some were very poor, and mostly middle class. And so that's when you see our campus, when you see our campus is clean, yet we have no signs that says don't litter. Our students dress a little nicer. We don't tell them to do that. So the atmosphere commands you to be a responsible citizen. So that's one. Another one might be that I'm a businessman. I'm not a typical academic. So some will say, well, they care too much about the looks of the campus. It shouldn't look this pretty, whatever. No, I want every academic classroom to be inviting for learning. You are the product of the environment in which you choose to reside. And I want you to reside in a place that propels you upwards and forwards. But I also want to teach you that philanthropy and stewardship are really fundamentals for your happiness, for your joy. The more you do of that, the happier you'll be. Um, you know, some people who want to criticize us, I won't talk about politics here, but there are those who want to criticize that. They cheapen their argument. They'll say, well, the academics are not as great. Really? Well, what makes you say that? Let's discuss it. But they want to hit you somehow. They can't hit me on a behavioral matter. I don't have anything in my life that I'm scared you're going to somehow unveil. So they get you on these kinds of things. We've learned to deal with that. But let me tell you something, and we have advocacy like you won't believe. Look, branding. Everybody wants to talk about branding. There's brand awareness. There's brand preference. There's brand insistence. 40% of our freshman class early decision, the only school they want to go to. And then there's brand advocacy. And our parents, oh, thank you, God, they advocate this campus like you wouldn't believe. They'll send us the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. And I know some of them stretch, Andrew, they stretch to make it possible financially. We give a lot of scholarships too, of course, but you never give it all away. So, but
If you don't mind sharing that number one more time, if someone wants to take a tour, Dr. Qubein.
telephone number 336 841 9000 or High Point, HIGHPOINT, one word, .edu. If you want to write me personally, N Qubein, NQUB as in boy, EIN. There's no E after the U. NQUBEIN at highpoint.edu. I answer every email, Andrew, 350 a day. Now, I
Wow.
don't like, people writing me, a book report, but I'll answer them 2 or 3 lines. I answer them all every day. I don't have someone answering my stuff. I only have one assistant here in my office. Some presidents have 15 people. I'm a business guy. I understand the entrepreneurial mindset and spirit, understand efficiency and productivity as well. And we live it here and we model it every day.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing about High Point University and sharing about stewardship and philanthropy. It's been an amazing show today.
Thank you, Andrew. My privilege being with you, and thank you for all the good that you're doing in our world through your writing, through your speaking, through your consulting, through your coaching. Keep it up, my brother. Keep it up. The world needs more Andrew McNairs out there who are doing it and doing it as well and as truthfully as you're doing it. Thank you. My pleasure being with you.
Thank you, sir, for coming on. That's all we have for this episode of Rich, Young, and Powerful Podcast. One thing that would really help both of us out is if you could rate the show and others would find more information about great organizations and charities and ministries and great universities like High Point University if you would rate the show on iTunes or Stitcher. Also, be sure to check out my new book at richyoungpowerful.com/book. That's richyoungpowerful.com/book to get a copy of The Giving Crisis. Until next time, remember that when a giver gives more, they receive and become more. See you next time.